So thank you very much for joining, guys. Today we're really excited. We've got Paul joining us. So Paul Stapleton, obviously he's a very big name within the industry, a good guy, has joined us, joined our team as an advisor, brand ambassador, and obviously a good friend. Now, obviously a lot in the industry know you, but those that don't know you, it'd be great. Could you give us a bit of an intro? Who are you, Paul?
Who am I? Firstly, a good dad. I think that's what we start with.
Always like that.
But
Always.
in the industry, who am I? So I'd like to think I'm probably one of the go-to people for deal sourcing when it comes to tenanted properties. That's what I'm known for. But over the last year, I've really looked at building the brand outside of deal sourcing and going into the event education space and just filling the gaps that I've seen over the last 8 years I've been involved in the industry to provide something that I would want to attend if I was still looking at events.
Okay, and tell us about your events. I'd love to.
Yeah, so we run a couple of different events. I suppose the baby is the Property and Entrepreneur Summit, which is this weekend, right? So Tom's really looking forward to it.
But only because you make me nervous when I have to stand on stage and do things.
I know. But it's good to be out of your comfort zone.
Always.
Yeah. So for me, one of the biggest problems I've seen in the property world is that people don't treat property as a business. They treat it as a side hustle or a hobby. And that's why lots of people can't scale it to where it needs to be to provide this word passive income, because they're constantly working in the business. So I started off setting up entrepreneur events in London, and it was really difficult getting people in property to go to an entrepreneur event that didn't involve property. They couldn't understand it. I'm like, you're looking for busy working professional investors. They're not at your local networking events because they're busy working professional investors, but they're at industry events, they're at entrepreneur events, they're at business events. So we spent a couple of years and it was really difficult. So we decided to say, right, let's create a hybrid event where it's the property morning and it's the entrepreneur afternoon. And everyone would turn up really excited to see the big names, like Simon Zucci, Rob Moore, but they'd end up walking away saying, actually, I really enjoyed the second part of to me, they're known speakers, but to them, unknown speakers, and they were learning about marketing, branding, AI, how to actually run and scale a business. And we're on our third event now in less than a year. We've been nominated for Property Event of the Year at the National Property Awards. And I think people are starting to realise now that once you understand what strategy you want to use in property, you don't need to keep going to events and educating yourself on the same thing or have that shiny penny syndrome where someone throws another strategy in front of you. You just need to double down and learn business so that you can start scaling it to a level of where it becomes enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's one of the things I tend to see the most is most people tend to focus, exactly as you say, they tend to focus on property like it's a hobby. They go, well, this is my saving plan or this is my pension, which I get, but the reality is if you're treating it as a hobby, you're only ever going to get hobby results, right? And the reality is it is a business. And if you're not going to treat it that way, you're not going to get the results that you should be getting. You're going to end up doing a lot more, self-management or being involved in stuff that really you shouldn't be. You should be leveraging other people's time, leveraging other people's knowledge, and just trying to build it as opposed to just having it as a little side hustle and going, well, I'll just leave that there and hope one day it comes good.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting what you've already started to do is create that community where you have the advisors and everything else that someone needs from setting up a business. So it's not a hobby, it's a business. Yeah. And that is what I've always thought that the coaching should have been, and the good coaches like yourself, for deal sources and everybody else, do that. Yeah. Where it's creating enough of it, and that is what my property group and you coming in does, is having these advisors within the space that each know their nuances and what they're really good at. And I just think that's what's been missing. So you actually get the person that's out there that's buying 1, 2 to get them to 4 or 5. They can't afford to have £20,000 a year and have someone as a one-person advisor on a board. That's just not there. But actually being able to tap into all of these things is great.
Yeah,
but sure. I think it'd be great to, we know you personally as well. I think, we go back, you and I go back, 6, 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
So it's interesting that before Richard and I even met, both of us had met you within that space for completely different avenues and reasons. Yeah. And I think this is just where, with what I've just said about pulling together the right people, we've always worked with, and you end up gravitating towards those people that come together and the
same goal.
So all got the same goal. And it's very interesting that without even trying, we've just ended up gravitating all back together going, do you know what? We all bring something different to the party that actually can mutually benefit ourselves as well as all the people that we want to help with. Look, this is the thing. We are not sitting here, Richard and I, as My Property Group and maybe others in the future, sitting here going, we know everything and that we want to go and beat everybody at it. The best way we've always thought about it was in our first podcast, it's how we built the business, was in a way we've created a business that's made up of partnerships. It's that collaborative approach. We actually want to enhance what we offer to everybody by not going, I know more than Paul. Paul knows far more than I know on lots of other things, and so does Harvey. So does even our builders, our consultants, our Ben Green for our social housing side of it. So what we've done is brought them all in together and actually have that as a, I hate the cooperative word because
we're leveraging each other's knowledge and experiences, right?
Yeah.
You can take the approach that many take in business, which is I'm going to beat my competitors, or you can take a smarter approach, in my opinion, which is, well, how do I work with my competitors so we both win together? Because ultimately you can sit there and try and fight over the same people, and then, oh, well, I'm going to spend this marketing that's going to compete with your marketing, and we're going to have our sales team competing against. And you go, but that it doesn't make any sense, because the reality is, although there's an abundance of people to work with, there is still a finite number. And if you're doing that, all you're going to do is drive each other's costs up, and also make it more difficult for the end user, the end client, to be able to choose and get a good service.
I think when you look at it, let's have a look at the market itself. So within the private rented sector, the PRS sector within the UK, it only makes up 30% of all transactions in the whole market of the UK. Within that, most new build developments, developer style blocks makes up half of it or even slightly more. So you're only looking at 15% of the whole of the UK yearly transactional property market that is within that point. Now, that's still a vast number of units. However, the amount of people that work in that space, it's so fractional, and it always has been as an industry, that you have lots and lots of people that just aren't a big enough brand or a name. There's nothing out there. There isn't the Savills of the world. There isn't the Knight Frank of the world that does that type of thing that people might know of. So what's actually happened is everybody is, and that's where we came last time, going, it just wasn't, no one's doing a really good job because they're all trying to do it on their own, and you can only do as much as you can on your own. And that was the idea of bringing it all together, was actually carving out all the best people, putting them together and getting them above that bread line, or water line, to be known. And I think we're already seeing the traction now of
massively. And I think what I love about your group is the little black book, right? Like, they're tried and tested services and products that people can feel confident in encouraging their clients to use. We've all probably kissed so many frogs, right, to find the right solicitor, the right mortgage broker. And I suppose the problem with property is that any sort of mistake is expensive. And for a lot of newbie sources, they can't afford to make those mistakes. They can't afford to mess up on solicitors. So the fact that it's almost like a one-stop shop for them to come to, and it's like, you need a mortgage broker, you need an accountant, you need a solicitor, you need a furniture company, whatever it is, I think it's worth its weight in gold in the current climate as well.
Yeah. We're not going to say as well that we don't keep chopping and changing. I think already in the last week, we've kicked out 2 solicitors and added 2 more back on, because that's the nature of it. But that power that we've now got collectively means that we can hire and fire just as fast if they don't keep up the standards. And it's about giving that standards not just to us. I want it every day. And therefore it's being able to offer that to the client.
I think it's probably one of mine that you've onboarded this week, isn't it? And that's it, isn't it? It's people having different experiences, and sometimes the longer you're with a firm, the more chance they become complacent as well, because they think, I've always got their business, so it's always going to happen. You always need to be shopping around and have a couple on.
We always find as well, we almost outgrow firms to an extent. And it's not that they can't necessarily cope with the volume, but what ends up happening is we give them a lot of volume. They obviously build off the back of that volume and builds their brand, builds what they do. They hire more, they get more people in. And what ends up happening is the quality of their work starts to slide as they continue to build as a business. And the minute the quality gets to a certain point, we start getting clients going, listen, I haven't had the best experience. And so at that point, we say to the third party, okay, well, this is where we're at. We either need to sort this out or we need to move on. And if it isn't sorted very quickly, then of course, we've almost got an obligation to the clients to go, let's get you the best service. Yeah. And from my experience, the best way to do it is always to shop around by way of referral, right? And obviously we can sit there, we can go through Google reviews and all that and go through that process. But the reality is the best way you get it is you speak to people in your network, you go, our solicitor's sliding, have you got someone like we have with you? And you go, great, this is the person I'm using, she's been amazing, and away we go.
Yeah. But there's all sorts of courses. There's already, since we last spoke this year, we've now gone from having the ability to have one product in each part to having a bronze, silver, and a gold package. So we can be able to now offer, and I'll go back to this conveyancers because we're talking about this from a solicitor's point of view. We now have all three of those. We had someone that brought through a quote, or wanted a quote for a 350 grand property, and actually that we could offer them, well look, here's 1250, it's tech enabled, this is it. Or if you want £700 and you want to be cheap because you kind of know what you're doing, we've now got this and this is good. Or you can go for the 2000, have the one-to-one who I won't name him, but I use him for my stuff because I want that knowledge. But that's me. I'm over here in wanting the gold package, but there are so many people wanting that. And that's what we're going to be looking at doing more over the next 6 months, is being able to have that through. Even to an EPC perspective, we've managed to knock EPC from £120 down to 70 quid for things. And that even gives us a referral to have a one-to-one conversation with the build team and everybody else to figure out how we can get the EPCs up to a C and what it would do with, and then we're looking at being able to put the build quotes off the back of it. Yeah. And that's already within that kind of strategy. And probably Richard doesn't even know about that, but that's just one of the other sides of the business that we've been dealing with.
I mean, the thing is, we're at the point where, unfortunately, we can't both be aware of everything going on, which is, it's a good place to be. And obviously, we have our regular briefs and regular catch-ups and everything, and you'll know what it's like, Paul. Yeah. But you get to a point where all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more disparate, and it's like, okay, well, you're focusing on that. I have to just leave you and trust that you'll get that done, and you do exactly the same where I'm here, and we'll just come together and just keep each other abreast of what's going on, which is, it's great. I mean, it comes with challenges, but it's great.
But that's why we brought you in. I think the best thing to do is talk about what the future goal is, that the vision of bringing you in to do, and then work through how that might then go down to, certain partnership,
different facets
and stuff.
Cool. So obviously on that line where we're talking about sort of how we work with each other and how that sort of leverages. So obviously bringing you in, which is a nice thing. It's great for us. We're really excited to have you. Not just as a brand ambassador, which obviously is a nice big piece for us anyway, but sort of as an advisor to the business, helping us how we build the brand, how we sort of grow and scale. So I suppose what might be useful for everyone to get a feel for is exactly what your thoughts are, how you see things going, how this affects what you're doing, how it works with your clients and all that sort of stuff.
So I think firstly for me it was let me test the platform out myself, and I think that went really well, because look, I gave you guys a piece of stock that I wasn't able to sell for near on 6 months. I've had the instruction, and you guys sold it in 2.5, 3 weeks on a single viewing. So that to me was a great trial run, to have the confidence to then say, one, let me start speaking to my mentees. And we had a great turnout, didn't we? We've hosted a couple of events with my mentees. They've come in and they're all using the platform, which is great. But I think for me, as a sourcer, I see it differently to you guys. Like, you guys you're massively on the tech, right? It's all about the tech, and it's raising the funds and that. And the actual day-to-day of the operations of a user is probably not something that you guys are experiencing, and probably not even your team, because your team are working with the people that are using the platform as opposed to being someone in it. So I think what I bring to you guys is first-hand experience from someone that's been using it been sourcing for 8 years. But more importantly, I'm speaking to people with problems every single day. And what I'm doing is I'm taking those problems and I'm looking at the platform thinking, well, how many of these problems are being solved by the platform? And if they're not being solved, what can I be coming back to you guys saying, right, here's 3 things that your platform doesn't solve. Yep. How can we now do that, so we are effectively just this one-stop shop, because what you guys offer is probably like 5 different membership services that people are paying for independently now, right? They're paying for a CRM, they're paying for something else. There's all these different memberships that they're paying for, when in reality, if you can bring it all onto one central one, it massively makes it cheaper to run and operate. It makes it easier to use as well. So I think I'm excited to see where this goes. I know that my mentees are super excited, and obviously we've been speaking to a lot of the large educators and looking at explaining to them on how this really does benefit them, their clients, in the current market conditions. But yeah,
I think it's broken down into 2 facets within the role. I think it's, like you've said, we love the fact that we are getting into the tech and the funding, and yes, we're doing our own fund and lots of other bits, which is then fueling the sourcing network behind that. But actually getting you to help keep us grounded on what's happening from a client perspective. It's almost research, day-to-day research, and it's instead of having a research where some people don't know the space, it's having someone that understands that space to then be able to bring back the right information, not just we should be doing this, why? It's no. I've already spoken to 200 people that are all going through this, and this would be a really good way. So from us, it's an advisory role in that respect as well, so we can try and enhance not our sources' journeys, but their actual clients, which are really who we really care about as well. I think then the second bit is, knowing that you've been through all of it, you've set it up yourself as a coach, mentor, yourself, and all of these, is that there is the best way for us to grow, and by us growing with the stock on there, the amount of white labels, which actually benefits everybody as that community needs to grow, you're going to help us partner and actually be, a second voice, not just us sales pitching it, because no one likes to be sold something. I don't think it needs selling, actually. It's just someone needs to explain the benefits from someone outside, and I've seen you already do that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of talks already where you guys have initially spoken to people and they've come away and they're like, I kind of understand it, but I think you've been so enthusiastic about the tech. And they're like, I understand the tech, I'm just trying to see how it fits in with us. And then I've come in and I've said, well, this is how because I know the individual, this is how I think it would benefit you. And then they've come away and they're like, see it now, that's great. And I think it's just understanding, look, with a business, right, the director isn't always the best person in the business, right? Their role is to employ the best people in all the different fields. And like, you guys are killing it in building this absolute monster of a platform. But then having like people like me and other brand ambassadors that are using it and they're out in the market and they're giving you this constant feedback of how you can make it better. It's just something you guys wouldn't have if you just ran away with what you thought was right as well. So
I think it's great. There's no doubt about when you see Richard and I on what it is that we're passionate about it. We can talk for hours on what we're trying to build, and even most of the team, which means that we're going in the right direction. Yeah. The problem can be is that it can be a little bit too much for someone to understand. So it's always best the way that I think I've already started loving it, how we're doing it, is giving the information, showing that this is the reason you want to be with us, is because we are going places and we're changing lives, making differences, and making property accessible, which is now turning into that kind of slogan that we're using. But having yourself or someone else be able to communicate it afterwards to say, actually, there's 17 facets going on here.
In their language.
But this is the product in your language you need to think about, and this is why it works for you.
I think the problem that your platform has, which is a good problem, is that you solve so many problems. Yeah. So if everyone's going to have a different problem, right? And it's impossible for you guys to know what part of the platform is going to benefit them the most. And I think when we're doing these events, when we're speaking to some of the larger trainers for collaboration and stuff like that, it's really just understanding what elements of the platform is going to benefit them the most. Like, the black book might not be the thing for them because they already have their own. And that might, if that's the forefront of the pitch, that might be the thing that people actually pull away from and go, well, actually, it's not value to me because I already have that. Whereas we would then focus more on the white label side of things and a bit more of a passive avenue of the 80-20 split.
Yep.
of you just become a marketer, you just get loads of investors, the team will onboard the investors and they'll sell the deals, you get 20% commission. So I think it's having that good understanding of who we're talking to best position the platform, because I think it's going to be rare to expect someone to come on and use every aspect of the platform, right? Some people will list properties, some people will sell properties, some people won't do either. They'll just use the black book and do the referral stuff. So,
well, I think there's a lot of white labels that sign up with us that don't appreciate enough the credibility it creates for them by having their own website, that all the stock branded in their picture, and therefore they can go to any investor or anybody on day one and go, this is how big we are as a group, and this is how I've got this connection, to be able to have that credibility sat there in front of investors.
Placebo.
Yeah.
It's a placebo. But it's like I'm saying to my mentees, like I wouldn't actively be out there saying, I have all this stock. I'd be saying, I have access to this stock. So it's like borderline not mis-selling that you've gone out and I'm amazing, I've done all of this. But it's one of those where it's, I call it artful vagueness. You're not saying it is, you're not saying it's not. But you say, look, we've got access to over 100 off-market deals. If you're interested in them, you just got to sign up to our website. You get full access to them. I can talk to you about any deal. Yeah. If you need solicitors, mortgage brokers, I've got access to all of them. You can use our black book. So it's super, super powerful, I think, from a very like day dot property sourcing point of view. They haven't had the years that we have of building those relationships up, forging those.
I think the other thing is also because they are partners, and we call them white label partners because it is an equal split partnership. As far as I'm concerned, whenever they're talking to people, there's no reason they can't just say we. Yeah. So we, as part of our partners, we can do this because they are partners. So if they go, we have access to this, or we can get you this, or we are direct to the seller on these, or it all forms part of the same partnership group. Yeah. So it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
So if you're saying I kind of get it. You go, okay, well, fair enough. Do you specifically? And it's like, well, no, we. So me and my partners.
Let me just transfer you through to accounts. Hello? Same person.
You see that so many of those Instagram videos where they put on a hat and they talk to themselves. So it's like, hello. Oh, yes, Roger, can you...
But that's the thing. Like, I come in once, sometimes twice a week, and every time I come here, there's always one of your white labels having a meeting with someone and stuff like that. And like, the fact that they can come here, they're holding a meeting with an investor and the investor sees the setup, and that it does, like you said, builds them massive credibility. I think back to when I first started in property, and I won't say the company's name, but we had a huge office, 72 staff. And within that office, it had an entrance and it had an exit. And it was like a journey. They came in, it's like, right, here is the planning department, here's the new build department, here's the bank of property sourcers who source all the deals, here's the sales progressors, lettings, marketing, and then it went to the huge sales department at the back. These are the guys that are going to sell your deal or whatever. Then as you walked out the exit door, you went straight into the meeting room, which is where the contract was just waiting with the pen. Wonderful. But on that journey of just walking through, and they saw the setup and like everyone's in-house, it was near on impossible for someone to go, you know what, I love you guys, I want to work with you. It was such an incredible setup. But I think that's what they get, like you said, like you use the word we, and we is all of the panel, all of the guys in the office, the sales progressors, the sales team, there's everyone there. You've got lettings.
I think that's for Q3, Q4 this year is about communicating that we have more of a community for our white labels, and that this panel is available to them. I want to create, with Richard, we've already been talking about it, is within the white label, the back end, to be able to have that facility for people to go, hey, what's this? It won't be being able to talk to each other. It's more about putting it onto a forum. Yes. To be able to understand what they need, what they want from it, because we've got enough within that we should all be partnering together, rather than it being a spearhead of us needing to do all of it. There's now that as you say, that advisory board. There's stuff that can come from that we're missing out on, that I don't think a lot of white labels realise, and our partners realise that we do. The ones that are really good at it do that, but there's a lot that probably are going through stuff that
I think for me, what I see in the space, and this morning was a perfect example with Joe, right, is that a lot of deal sourcers don't see that there's 3 different hats in the business. They see there's only 2, and the 2 that they see is, I source the deal, I sell the deal. So you've got sourcing and selling. What they don't see is the third part, which is the most important part, which is sales progression.
Yeah.
Because without sales progression, you don't get paid.
That's where you lose most of the deals.
You lose it, yeah, exactly. And sales progression is the longest part as well. So my analogy for this, and you'll love this because you're golfers, is sourcing the deal is the tee, chip on the green is the sell, and then 10 putts to get it in the hole. That's sales progression. That's the amount of obstacles you're going to deal with. And I don't think they see that as a valuable part. So they give it to these crap solicitors, and then when the deal falls apart, they say, it was a crap solicitor, when in reality, actually, you didn't take control, you didn't get involved, you just relied on 13 independent parties during conveyancing, which is the average with surveyors, mortgage brokers, lenders, everyone involved. You're expecting 13 people to do their job to get this over the line. And 9 times out of 10, I've realised my fee is more than all of their fees put together. So why would I trust people that I don't know to do it? What I love about your setup is that you've got full-time sales progressors in there. So the fact that a lot of these have never bought a property before, they don't understand sales progression, the milestones. Most sources call an agent up, a solicitor up 2 weeks after it's got into legal saying, when are we going to exchange? They don't understand evaluation needs to take place. We need searches, there's inquiries, there's all of these things. So the value of getting 50% of the commission for doing one part of the job, and it's probably the easiest part, right? Whether it's you just sourced it or all you've done is sell it, it's a huge weight in their favour when it comes to pound per hour, massively.
Well, I think it's the experience that we're talking about there, is that, you know, no matter how many times you want to do it, if you've not bought your own property and gone through it, obviously we've bought hundreds ourselves now, especially even within the fund in the last year, nearly every single one of them comes up with a different nuance between in the legal stage. Yeah. So if you haven't gone through that, and that's what we were talking about even downstairs with Joe, is that you need to have that sounding board to be able to ask those questions, because you might need to find that you have to know more than the lawyer does to be able to get the deal through, to figure out which side is wrong and which side's right, because you've got two sides fighting each other, and you need to do that. Most sources don't have that education or knowledge. Yeah. You don't need to, though. I'm not saying it's all show that for no substance. That's what most sources are. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that you can rely on having and doing the sales and being a good salesperson and having all of that, but utilising the team that we've spoken about, the advisors that we've got.
Ultimately, we've built the business based on people being able to focus on what they're good at, right? That's always the metric of what the business, the technology, the structure is if somebody's good at selling, like, get them out there selling. Why should they have to worry about deal progression? Why should they worry about exactly? Do what you're good at, right? Yeah. Allow us and our other partners to do what they're good at. Right, allow our team to be amazing at what they do, and providing everyone's amazing at what they do, like, magic happens. But it's all about how do you create that team of superstars? Yeah. Right. You know, you don't have a basketball team or a baseball team or a football team based around one player. Right.
Some do.
I mean, football, yes. But
Saudi league.
But the reality is, if you bring a whole bunch of very good people together, only magic things happen.
Yeah, I do think, like, I think back to my first year. Like, I personally think you have to wear every hat in your first year to work out what you're good at, and also what you enjoy doing as well. Because I think there's an element that, like, some of the low value tasks that I do, I wouldn't usually do, because pound per hour, it's not good for me. But it's something that I enjoy doing, and I have to have that enjoyment level. But do all three, work out what you're good at, and also what it does, by understanding all three parts, it allows you to realise when somebody that you employ to do it isn't actually doing it properly as well, because you can call out the BS.
Yep. Yeah, massively. I do love the analogy there from a football point of view. It doesn't matter if you were Ronaldo. If you're a one man, if you're up against 15, you cannot win.
No one's feeding you, are they?
One person can do that. You can't get the ball, you can't do anything. Without the team around you, they don't have to be as good. But if you've not got a team around you that has the ability to do all of those hats, because doing any property transaction, you have so many elements that are within it. The life cycle and the ecosystem of that property and its journey from start to finish doesn't just end with a sale. It has a full process, all of it. You cannot do all of that on your own. Yeah. And actually, that's where we all came from, is trying to do all of those hats, figuring out we can't do it all ourselves. And that's how Richard and I came together at the outset. That's how then you came in. We've got all the other people because actually we cleverly realised that I don't need to try to beat someone on that part. Let's pass the ball over there, pass the ball over here, and actually we'll all get there in the end and we can do 20 at once. Anyway, love that.